Today I'll show you how we get from a bunch of 3D printed parts to this Spider-Man No Way Home inspired bust. Hello custom collectors and welcome to a new video. Unfortunately I had a print failure on the base, but I decided to fix it instead of reprinting it. So I use epoxy sculpt from Aves and clay sculpting tools to remodel the parts that didn't print correctly. By the way, the model is from Oscar Perez Ayala, so go and check out his amazing work. I put a link to his Instagram in the description below. After the worst damage was fixed, I used Tamiya putty and then wet sand the base to achieve a smooth surface. For Spider-Man's body parts, I start with an X-Acto knife and small files to remove the humps and bumps. Then I use super glue on cyanoacrylate bases and an activator spray to glue the parts together. And while we wait for the glue to dry, I'd really appreciate a like, a comment and a subscription if you like the video. The YouTube algorithm doesn't really like people like me who only post videos once in a while, so I would really appreciate that. And with that, the glue is dry. Then I fill the gaps with Tamiya putty, do some more sanding, and then it's time for the paint job. As a base coat, I start with Vallejo Model Color Red. Then I use a brush and Game Color Black to paint the other half of the suit black. I want to have a bit of a color variation in the stripe that separates the black from the red part of the suit, so I use liquid latex to mask off the red, and then I use my airbrush to paint the stripe in a dark gray. However, after removing the latex, I noticed that not all of the parts were fully covered. So I clean up the dark gray part of the suit with a brush and then mask off the gray and black part of the suit to repaint the red part with the airbrush. And luckily, this try was successful. Another round of cleanup with the paintbrush, and then I paint the logo on Spidey's bag in white. Then I remove the overspray with a small paintbrush. With Game Color Gunmetal, I paint the little gadget things on Spidey's belt. And then I block out the eyes using black and white. For the spiderweb I use oil paints for the first time, because you can wipe off excess easier than with acrylics. I thin down the oil paints with turpentine, which is some pretty nasty stuff, so use a respirator when you do that. Then I just need to hold the brush into the crevices and the oil paint magically flows into them. And the stuff that doesn't go into the crevices can indeed be wiped away pretty well with a Q-tip soaked with some turpentine. Then I use Vallejo Dead White for the logo on the front of the suit and a Sharpie for the very fine details. And now it's time to paint my first ever human head sculpt. I start with a few layers of Vallejo Game Color Pale Flesh. Then I use a red, blue and yellow wash to tint the skin color. With a sponge I remove the wash and repeat this process until I'm satisfied. Then I take a wash of khaki to darken the skin tone a bit. I also use a paintbrush to spritz water down red onto the head sculpt to break up the smoothness of the paint job a bit. Then I'm mixing pale flesh with a bit of red to paint the lips. Then I start blocking out the hair color. I start with Beastie Brown followed by Burned Umber. And the same goes for the eyebrows. For the eyeballs I use Bone White. And because I'm too lazy to paint eyes, I created my own waterslide decals in different sizes, and I thought this head sculpt would be a good piece to give them a try. And then I seal them with a satin varnish. And then I'm going back and forth with red and tan washes. Lastly, I use a makeup brush with Beastie Brown to dry brush highlights to the hair. And then I call the head sculpt done. Could be better, but I think for the first try it could also be a lot worse. After a couple of layers of spray filler, I use a acrylic silver rattle can to paint the whole base, and afterwards I use a paintbrush to paint the spider logo black. And after a round of black wash and sealing everything with a matte varnish, I called it done.